What Asia Wilson just did was completely.
A.O. Wilson just made the biggest mistake of her career, and there's no coming back. Her actions fueled a dangerous situation that left Caitlin-Clark facing relentless assaults throughout the 2024 WNBA season.
We have got confirmation of what is one of the worst things that happened to Caitlin-Clark.
The consequences, potential suspension, backlash, and possibly the end of her career. The truth behind this scandal is bigger than basketball, and it's shaking the league to its core.
Asia Wilson, who was at the time, prior to Caitlin-Clark, the face of the WNBA, sent an angry mob towards a 22-year-old.
What exactly did, how did it spiral out of control? Stay tuned as we break down every detail of this shocking controversy. Let's break it all down.
Second, Clark's deal got announced. What's delayed is not denied. And then made this whole thing about, then started posting about how basically people of color.
First, let's talk about what led up to this mess. Asa Wilson has been a dominant force in the WNBA for years. She's won championships, MVP titles, and has been one of the most recognizable faces in the sport. But despite all her success, there's always been this underlying conversation about the lack of mainstream recognition for Black female athletes compared to their white counterparts. It's a discussion that's been going on for years, not just in basketball, but across all sport.
Posting that in order to get a signature shoe, because it did get pushed a few weeks later. Not only was that not true, she has confirmed she had to keep it secret for almost 2 years. So for almost 2 years, she knew about this. So by the way, and if you want to say that she didn't send an angry mob towards her, yeah, she did. Yeah, she did. She even had teammates, even future Caitlin-Clark teammates, saying, I might get a shoe before Asia Wilson at this rate.
Caitlin-Clark, a college sensation with a massive following, she was breaking records, drawing huge crowds, and making headlines everywhere. The moment she declared for the WNBA draft, the hype was unreal. Everyone wanted a piece of her, and Nike, they did no time signing her to a $28 million shoe deal, one of the biggest in women's basketball history. This is where things start to get messy.
Nobody, and I mean no NDA, that makes it so that you have to pretend, you have to play victim and pretend you don't have a shoe when you have one coming. You have to stay silent. You don't have to, especially when you saw what was happening.
The moment Clark's deal was announced, some players, including A.J. Wilson, reacted in a way that many saw as bitter. Instead of celebrating the growth of the league and what Caitlin's popularity could bring to women's basketball, it became a conversation about race fairness and who really deserved that. Spotlight Wilson and others pointed out that many Black WNBA stars had never received the same level of endorsement deals despite their talent and accomplishments. Was that a fair conversation to have? Sure. But the way it played out was damaging. Instead of uplifting the league, it created an us versus them mentality. And that mentality quickly spilled onto the court throughout Caitlin-Clark's rookie season. She became a target not just for tough defense, because that's part of the game, but for blatant, cheap shots, unnecessary aggression, and moments that felt personal rather than competitive. She was elbowed, knocked down, shoved, and heckled in ways that crossed the line. And while physical play is nothing new in basketball, the consistency and intensity of it towards Clark raised eyebrows. Fans, analysts, and even former players started asking the tough question: was Caitlin-Clark being intentionally targeted? And if so, who was fueling it? Then came the real controversy: A.A. Wilson's comments she made. Statements and interviews that, whether intentional or not, added fuel to the fire. When asked about Caitlin-Clark's impact on the league, she made remarks about how certain players get pushed to the forefront while others are ignored. She also spoke about how she felt uncomfortable in certain environments, specifically mentioning Indiana, where Clark was playing. It didn't take long for people to connect the dots. Was A.A. Wilson planting a narrative? Was she subtly encouraging resentment towards Caitlin-Clark? And if so, did that resentment lead to the blatant once-court assaults Clark endured throughout the season? Things hit a breaking point when Caitlin took a particularly brutal hit during a game. It wasn't a regular foul. It was a deliberate shove that sent her crashing to the floor. Fans erupted, social media exploded, people started calling for action. Was this just a byproduct of intense competition, or was it something more sinister? At this point, the league had no choice but to address what was happening. The WNBA commissioner was pressed on whether the treatment of Caitlin-Clark had gone too far. The response: a vague statement about physical play and sportsmanship. But fans weren't Buying it, they wanted accountability. Meanwhile, Wilson doubled down. Instead of clarifying or de-escalating the situation, she stood by her words, emphasizing that the WNBA had long ignored black athletes and that she wasn't going to apologize for speaking the truth. While many agreed with her sentiment about racial disparities, they also felt that her approach had indirectly contributed to a hostile environment for Clark. And then the final blow came: a series of leaked messages and behind the scenes conversations that revealed that Wilson had allegedly been stirring the pot long before Clark even entered the league. Screenshot showing her making dismissive remarks about Clark's popularity, questioning why she was getting so much attention, and even joking about how certain players should welcome her to the league the hard way. That was it. The tipping point now. A Wilson finds herself at the center of a career-altering controversy. Sponsors are reportedly reconsidering their partnerships. The league is under pressure to take disciplinary action, and the conversation has shifted from racial disparities in the WNBA to did A. Wilson incite targeted aggression. This is where things get real, because if the league finds that Wilson did in fact contribute to the hostile treatment of Caitlin-Clark, the consequences could be severe. We're talking potential suspensions, fines, or worse, being blacklisted from future endorsement deals. And let's not forget the damage to her legacy. Aka Wilson has built her career as one of the best to ever do it. But this controversy threatens to overshadow everything she's accomplished. So where do we go from here? Should the WNBA step in and discipline Wilson? Should she be forced to issue an apology? And most importantly, how does the league move forward from this mess? One thing is for sure: this situation has exposed deep divisions in women's basketball. What should have been a celebration of Caitlin-Clark's arrival has turned into one of the most controversial moments in WNBA history. And now a Wilson's career hangs in the balance. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. The fallout from A.O. Wilson's actions is only getting worse. What started as frustration over endorsements has spiraled into an all-out war of words, accusations, and potential career-ending consequences with every passing day. New details emerge, and the WNBA finds itself in a crisis unlike any it has ever faced. The public backlash has been relentless. Fans of both Caitlin-Clark and Wilson are clashing online, debating whether this controversy is about race-fair competition or something far more sinister. The league, already struggling for mainstream attention, now finds itself at the center of a national conversation that extends beyond basketball, and the pressure is mounting. Sponsors are taking notice. While Wilson has been a major face for brands in the past, some of those partnerships are now in question. Rumors are swirling that certain companies are considering distancing themselves from the controversy, fearing the PR nightmare that comes with it. If that happens, Wilson could see a financial impact that extends far beyond any suspension or fine the league might impose. But the biggest question remains: will the WNBA actually take action? That league is in a difficult position. On one hand, disciplining Wilson too harshly could alienate a significant portion of its player base and fans, who believe she has been unfairly targeted. On the other hand, ignoring the situation completely could further inflame tensions and make it look like they condone the treatment Clark has received on the court. Behind closed doors, team owners and league officials are reportedly in deep discussions about the best way to handle the situation. Some believe a suspension is necessary to send a message that inciting hostility, even indirectly, has consequences. Others worry that punishing Wilson could open a floodgate of accusations against other players who have made similar remarks in the past. The WNBA has never faced a situation quite like this, and whatever decision they make will set a precedent for years to come. Meanwhile, Caitlin-Clark has remained mostly silent on the issue. Her camp has not made any official statements beyond